Okay.
All right, now it's official. Welcome. This is the joint Northwest Central and Coastal San Pedro Planning and Land Use Committee meeting for November. We have a special meeting today since we had the holidays last week. And so thank you for coming. We have representatives from the three councils, Diana Navis from Northwest, Robin Rudisil from Coastal, and myself from Central. And we have several committee members here, which I will not introduce personally, but they're all here. We will get started with our meeting, and we're going to have a change in our agenda. We're going to switch item 3 to the front, and given that it's going to be a quicker presentation, and this will allow more time for the first item that we had originally planned. So we have a presentation on the Clearwater project by Basil Hewitt from the LA County Sanitation District. And Basil, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you, Javier. Thank you, council members. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let me hide floating panels. All right, so let's just go through it. Update on the Clearwater project. In the essence, the project is addressing aging infrastructure to protect our local waterways. Most of you by now, especially Diana, I met her over 10 years ago, know about the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. We serve 5.5 million people in LA County, and the highlighted areas you see are our service area. And we do that by treating about 390 million gallons of sewage per day. That's enough sewage to fill the Rose Bowl 4 or 5 times a day. And we clean up that sewage in about 10 to 12 hours, either recycling it, or in the case of our largest and our first treatment plant, the JWPCP, or Joint Water Pollution Control Plant in Carson, all that water goes out to the ocean. Here's a close-up of the joint plant. So as you go north on the 110 near Sepulveda, look to your right, there's the plant. And all the water from that plant that 5 million people in LA County depend on, all the clean water goes through 2 tunnels that were built in 37 and 58. And those tunnels cannot be taken out of service. And so we're building a new tunnel, as you all know. It's called the Clearwater Project. The new tunnel will be 7 miles in length, 18-foot internal diameter, and we started in 2019 preparatory work, and I just wanted to give you a quick update. So most of the work will occur, above ground work will occur right next to our joint plant in this area that says shaft site. It's basically at Lomita and Figueroa, and we own that. And this, we're going to build this tunnel. We're building this tunnel with this device called the tunnel boring machine. This thing is about 2 feet, the equivalent of a 2-story building in height. You're seeing it lowered in the ground. What you're looking at now is the front end of that machine, which is the cutting edge, and it spins underground, as you see here, and it grinds away at the rocks and dirt, and it pumps it to the surface. And as it grinds away, it builds the prefab, it loads in prefab concrete wall segment. So it's quietly underground building this tunnel as it drills, as it digs like a mole. And it's called Rachel, after Rachel Carson. We got a student naming contest to that, so you see how it works. And so here's an aerial of the shaft site at Lomita, Figueroa, and we lowered Rachel in there. And Rachel is about 780 feet long, length of 2 football fields. And I just want to show you how far Rachel's gone. So since last fall, what you see highlighted is the underground path Rachel has taken. It's gone under Figueroa. It's crossed under the 110 freeway. And, you know, anywhere depths of 100 feet, 80 to 100 feet below ground, it stopped on that location to do some maintenance work. Then it proceeded onto the golf course at the park, at the regional park. And this yellow shows the path that's already taken. And if any of you golfers there, you're probably golfing, and Rachel has been quietly underground about 100 feet below you, building this tunnel as it digs. And I want to show you where it's at right now. It crossed under the Machado Lake. And the fact that no one's aware of it means a good thing for us as engineers, as builders. You know, it's not being disrupted. Bottom line, rate the machine and the project, we've built 1.6 miles of tunnel with very few people being aware of it. We have a total of 7 miles of tunnel. So right now it's parked underground. Our crews are out checking the cutting blades before starting up. Rachel will be starting up again next week. Here's what the first couple of feet of the tunnel looks like. These are actual photos in there. You can see what the first mile looks like. These are some of the crews coming in and out. You know, we have these carts that take people back and forth, take the prefab concrete segments back and forth. And this guy is really happy to be on camera. Starting point at the plant in Carson. In August, September, we were right here. We're now parked right here. And then we're going to get started up and running. So that's it. I just want to give you an update. We covered 1.6 miles of tunnel already. We have another 2.5 years of tunneling to go. Then after that, we will tie into the existing infrastructure that we have in place at the treatment plant and then the ocean outfall. And I think hopefully I kept my word, stay within 4 minutes. So that's all I had. And then, so I just want to tell you, more tunnel is going to go. The only ground work you might see beginning of next year, we'll be doing some exploratory borings down at San Pedro at the end to just basically make sure the infrastructure that we have underground is where it's supposed to be, so we don't have any delays when we get there in terms of tying in. So we'll next month, in early 2023, we'll do some exploratory borings down at the tail end where the new tunnel will tie in.
You mean down at White Point?
At White Point, exactly. That's all I have.
Thank you, Basil. I think we might have a couple of questions. I see Linda's hand raised.
Okay. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Basil. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate that. It took a long time to get here. I remember when this was first proposed, and I'm just hoping to live long enough to see it finished.
It should be done by 2027. You know, once you get
that you're pushing it a little bit for me, but I'll try. But I would like that presentation to come to the central. We have the Central Neighborhood Council, because we have a lot of new members who are may not be at all familiar with this. So Javier is our chairperson. So if you maybe Javier can reach out and set that time. We meet the third Tuesday of January.
Okay. And this was a very truncated presentation. You tell us how much time we have, we can fit it in, either whatever you want. We'll be there.
No, this was fine.
Yeah, the length I think was perfect.
That means it wasn't too boring.
No.
Putting words there.
Let's see, Alan Franz.
Thank you. I wanted also to thank Basil for the presentation, which I thought was very nice. I love the animations in particular. And on a longer term, you and Glenn Acosta gave several of us a tour of the facility back, that must have been before the pandemic.
Yes.
Since there were a bunch of us, and I think we all really appreciate your efforts as an organization and personally to communicate the process. So many people take processing of waste and wastewater for granted, and the provision of water for irrigation and other purposes, and just assume you turn, it's the old turn on the tap and water appears magically, you flush the toilet and waste go away, never to be seen again.
Yeah. And that treatment plant, 5 million people depend on it. And part of the story I couldn't tell, the big issue is like, especially when you're getting heavy rains now, our flows are going up to levels that we're really holding our breath that we don't flood out the treatment plant. So that's a big driver for this new tunnel, in addition to the aging infrastructure. But one of the things we're also doing is we're working with Metropolitan Water District on a demonstration project to show that we can clean up a lot of that water that's going to the ocean and put it back in our drinking water supply. And that's another project that's called Pure Water.
Yeah, I think you showed us the site where they were working on that when we visited.
And
I have what may be a somewhat tangential question, but given that this is going to tie into other facilities at the site there, that it's going to be a drain from source material, are those connections already there, or are they being done concurrently, or?
I'm not sure the connections to the tunnel.
Well, you've got a tunnel there. It needs to connect to outflow source is currently.
That's a great question. All right.
Pipes.
So what'll happen, so that as we have about 2.5 years more of tunneling to go to get to the 7 mile of tunnel. And then near the end of that 2.5 year, there'll be some overlap work where they'll tie in the front end of the tunnel to our existing treatment plant. And they'll also start tying in the back end of the tunnel down at White's Point to the existing outfall or manifold structure. I mean, for you, Alan and Diane, a lot of people who've heard me, and Glenn's on vacation now, his birthday was this week, or you would have got, I'm his understudy. So at that back end, they're gonna tie in to the existing outfalls that go 1.5 miles offshore. So that work is gonna be another 2 years, but we're gonna overlap it. So it's not like 2.5 and 2 years. So we're gonna overlap it to make sure to get done by 2027.
Cool. It's just, I think, helpful for us to understand sort of the logistics, the planning that goes into a massive project like this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had a couple of hands, but I think they changed their mind.
You have a hand from Isaiah Nunez.
Nunez, yes. I saw his hand, but I don't see him. Isaiah, do you still have a question?
I had to make him temporarily a panelist because his Zoom
sorry, no question. I'm just a student.
Hi, Isaiah.
Well, thank you for being here. I just had a quick question. And where's the material that is being extracted, put in?
Oh, you mean like the dirt and stuff that's been, it's being, the contractor's taking it off site, and a lot of it is going to like pits in Irwindale. So the contractor will find the most, cost-effective place to take the dirt. The closer, the better, but with that much material, so it's going, last time I checked, it was going to, out to Irwindale.
That makes sense.
Mm.
Very well. Well, I don't see any other hands or questions. Thank you for the presentation. I think for Central, this would be perfect. I think, the overall idea we get, and then I'm sure people will have some questions that you'll be able to answer for us.
Okay. So I look forward to you said third Tuesday in January?
Yes.
Third Tuesday.
Is that correct, Linda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Third Tuesday.
All right,
Okay.
so we'll reach out to you, Javier and Linda, and we'll set up something. You'll probably get Glenn. You won't get I'm like the understudy.
Oh, no, I don't know Glenn.
Yeah, he's great. All right.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you folks.
for being here, and thanks for the presentation.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Let
We'll move on.
me just insert that I think we have a lot of students online tonight, and the way I'm going to handle it is all the names I don't recognize, I will send in as students. So if you're here as a student and you're at San Pedro High School, we'll send your name in so you get credit. If you're here as a student and you're not from San Pedro High School and you need credit, you'll need to raise your hand and let us know that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Diana. We'll move on to our original first item, which is connecting San Pedro. And we have Katie here. Yes, we do. Katie Harold from LA Borough of Engineering is here to do a presentation on connecting San Pedro.
Hello, everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Let me share the presentation. Okay, everyone can see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. My name is Katie Harrell. Work with CWE. We were hired by the Bureau of Engineering for this project. And so I'm here to talk to you about the Connecting San Pedro project, pedestrian improvements and multimodal access project. The point of this project is to create a safe and accessible community and improve the public right-of-way. It's aiming to improve access for pedestrians, cyclists, and other transit users focused in the San Pedro area. So we'll go into more detail about that. Badi Aboud is the project manager from Bureau of Engineering. He may be in attendance, but he is the main point of contact for the city. I'm going to talk about an overview of the project, the proposed improvements, and provide some information on the schedule and the project phases. And then we'll open it up to any questions that you may have. So as I mentioned, the goal of this project is to improve traffic flow, safety, and accessibility, while also encouraging multiple modes of transportation. The city is really engaged and active in achieving their goals set forth with Vision Zero of reducing serious accidents. And this is one of the projects that really helps them meet some of those goals. These areas in San Pedro have high reported collisions and accidents, which is why the city is taking steps and has prioritized this site for these improvements. So this project is a program of improvements. There's 12 different locations, and I'll show you that on the next slide. And as part of that, the 12 intersections will be improved to include ADA accessible curb ramps. They'll also have curb extensions. Some of them will have curb extensions and bus extensions, which provide traffic calming and encourage additional safety. And then they'll also include continental crosswalks, which help improve pedestrian visibility and improve safety again. So here is the project and program area. You can see that there's a large blue square around a project area, what is labeled. We're not doing improvements throughout this whole area. The improvements are focused on the yellow boxes within the area. And those are key intersections on 1st Street and 7th Street between Gaffey and Harbor Boulevard, along with 10th and Gaffey itself, where we'll be putting a new traffic signal because there is a need for it on this larger street. So I'm going to show, excuse me, sorry. I'm going to show an example of some of the proposed improvements to get an idea of what is proposed at each of the different intersections. And so here is an example, and this is at 1st Street in Mesa. You can see that starting with the yellow boundaries, those are the improved limits of sidewalk and curb extension. So you can see that in the background, the existing curb goes straight along the roadway, and then it turns up on Mesa Street. And now we'll be changing the shape of the sidewalk to extend it out into the street and bulb it. This is called a bus extension. The long ones are called bus extensions, and the short ones are called curb extensions. The bus extensions are meant for bus stops. So you can see that there's also going to be bus pads placed at each of the bus stop locations. We've also relocated a few of the bus stops to be on the far side of the intersection, as this improves safety. When there's a bus stopped at a corner, people are more tempted to go cross it and or go around it, but they can't see the incoming traffic from the other direction. So moving the bus stops to the far side of the intersection prevents that from occurring. So as part of the curb extensions, there's also, you can see the ramps that will be placed at each of the corners. In some instances, there will be a loss of parking, and I may add that the reason there's a loss of parking shown on the southeast corner is because of the bus extension and because the bus stop is being relocated. So there will be new parking spaces potentially on the opposite side where the existing bus stop is, because typically there's a large red curb area there already for the bus to stop. So we're kind of shifting around parking spaces while there is a net loss of about 3 to 5, I believe. The project also includes a few trees that will be removed, but they'll be replaced at a 2-to-1 ratio. So this is an example of some of the improvements. I wanted to show some pictures of what they would look like besides on the map format. So here you can see especially in the top right corner, the extension that extends out, and it can now fit bus furniture such as benches and shelters that could otherwise may not fit. In this example, it looks as if the sidewalk is very wide, so they may have been able to fit some furniture, but in the instance for our project, we would not be able to fit that furniture while providing a ADA accessible sidewalk. So adding the curb extensions gives us the ability to add in benches and shelters and improve the experience for bus riders and alternative commuters. So here you can kind of see those examples. I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of bus extensions or curb extensions. And one of the main benefits is that it reduces the crossing distance for pedestrians by bringing the sidewalks closer together. And it also gives a larger area for pedestrians to congregate or to wait to cross safely. It also narrows the street, which provides traffic calming. That tends to reduce the traffic speeds because there is something that comes out into this roadway. It also reduces the right turn speeds because the cars can't cut those tight corners and go quickly through there, which is also unsafe for pedestrians and other transportation modes. It also provides more space, like I said, for the amenities and for ramps. Curb ramps often are challenging to fit in very narrow sidewalks because of the requirements to meet ADA. So extending the sidewalk into the roadway does give more space for those ramps to be placed. It also improves visibility and eliminates the need for the buses to merge onto incoming traffic because they're able to stop and quickly load and unload and continue their route. And here's some additional photos. Last time we presented this project to the neighborhood council, there was a lot of questions and comments that were brought up about some of the improvements on 7th Street. So we did want to kind of walk through some of those a little bit more. 2 areas that were specifically requested were 7th and Mesa and 7th and Center. And so here you can see, actually at 7th and Mesa, last time we met, there was some discussions of a veterinary clinic that exists in the southeast corner. And so originally we had relocated the bus stop to be on the far side of the intersection here. So the southwest curb extension was actually on the southeast because it was assumed that the driveway at the property wasn't in use because of the way it was configured. There's no parking spaces, but it was clarified. The use of the area was clarified. And so the design team has gone forward with redesigning this intersection to put the bus stop back where it's originally located and put the bus extension on the southwest corner and just do curb ramp improvements on the southeast corner to protect the use of the property owner. So here you can see that there's a few metered spaces and a loading space that will be lost or relocated. We understand that some of the loading space is important to the property owner, so we're hoping to do additional coordination on that. And just like the other side, there's 1 tree that will be relocated. And we're not showing the proposed trees, so I apologize for that. I'll have to double check. There is 8 trees proposed as part of the project. They're distributed between the 12 intersections. Oh, sorry. And at 7th and Center, so not all of the intersections are including curb extensions and bus extensions, only some of them, the ones specifically with bus stops. So at 7th and Center, the bus stop is located away from the corner. And at this location, you can see that the intersection is skewed and not your standard cross-looking intersection. So it was decided not to put curb extensions here. So instead, there'll be just ADA ramps will be added to the site, and there'll be some minor sidewalk improvements around those ramps. Also, during the last meeting, we got some questions, and I wanted to just address those, about some questions about the speed hump program on, and so we did talk with the city about that, and the bus agencies. Metro operates buses along with LADOT on these streets, and they did indicate that the bus hump or the speed hump program is for local residential streets primarily, and not for avenues and larger streets, because the buses have a challenge going over the speed humps, and it can be unsafe for the passengers, especially those that are standing. So we did bring that up, and thought it was a great idea. However, it doesn't align with the city's programs at this time. We also had some questions about the bus stopping in the roadway and about sharing traffic count data. So we can make that available if anyone would like to see it. The city felt that because the traffic was less than 400 to 500 vehicles per hour, that it would be conducive to allowing the bus to stop in the travel lane. So jumping now to the phase and schedule, pre-design has already been completed, and we're currently in the design process, expecting to finish close to the end of this year or possibly early next year. After that, the city will go out to bid and award. There is a period in there where additional coordination is needed with some utility owners. So construction is expected to start spring 2023 and extend into fall 2024. The project has received Measure M funding, so that is another guiding factor of the proposed improvements and the timeline. The project team has done a variety of different outreach. We have an outreach consultant, KPA, who has done door-to-door outreach in the surrounding community areas and passed out flyers and information on the project. We also are doing presentations today and previously at the Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council. And we also have another presentation coming up in December. We also have posted frequently asked questions and social media messages through the Toberman Community Center, or we're planning to through this coming year. And we're also doing mailings to the businesses and residents within the project area. So with that, we'll open up to any questions.
Thank you, Katie. Let me see, we have a few hands up. Robin?
Yeah, hi, I'm Robin from the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and one of our board members who could not make it tonight had a question. He's saying, what is the process for having curb cuts, wheelchair access ramps put in place at intersections such as the ones included in this plan? There are several intersections on 25th Street that are in need of them, including 25th and Alma, 25th and Leland, and 25th and Walker.
So the city has the sidewalk program where they are trying to improve all sidewalks and curb ramps over the next several years. I don't want to provide too much detail on that just because I would need to just double check what the goals are set forth by their program. So they are actively trying to improve curb ramps. I will have to check on the process for prioritization. I know that for this project, it was ideal due to the high collisions and the funding source. It fit well into the program. And so the city was able to take advantage of that. So we'll have to double check for you on that.
Can you let me know through Javier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Linda and then Brock.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that some consideration has been given to the 7th and Mesa properties there. that landing, the loading spot is really important. It's got to be either on Mesa or on 7th for sirens. That's a really important spot. And I'm curious, 7th I know 7th is wider than 6th, but it doesn't seem like a wide street to me to be that concerned about pedestrians walking across the street. I don't get it.
Well, there's a lot of collisions on those streets, and because of the high activity with buses, that can cause that to happen. But the Vision Zero Cities Network, if you get a chance to look at it, shows a lot of collisions in these streets in these areas, and so that's why it was prioritized. The width of the street, these are actually, like you mentioned, pretty narrow. They're not too wide. They're just a single lane travel lane, and so the curb extension actually matches the width of the parking stall space. So we're not going to extend into the street too much more than what a car would as they're parked. And we did focus on placing curb extensions along existing red curb areas so that we're not impeding on anything that wasn't already blocked. That area was already blocked off. It just wasn't available for anyone to use. So now we're trying to make it accessible.
Thank you.
Brock?
Hi, I got in a little late. Apologize for that. I had a tree I had to do something with. I got in right when I heard the word, my favorite word, speed bumps. Did you say you were putting speed bumps on 6th and 7th?
No, last time it was requested if there was any consideration to put speed humps on 7th Street particularly, because that's part of our project area. And I was reporting that we are not able to put them on the street due to the less activity.
I was wondering if there was any analysis that showed that speed bumps actually helps people stop at stop signs.
I'm not sure.
I don't think there is, because they just put one on a surface street right here. And what is your thought process? Because I cannot believe, as I come down 17th Street to downtown, the people moving and it's just no one is paying attention to any traffic signs. There is no enforcement. Do you have comments relating to that?
I don't, but the city does have a speed hump program that they are, I'm not as familiar with it, but as we've been requesting information from the city from these meetings, they did explain that there's a website that has like maps and shows like prioritized streets for speed humps. So I believe that the city does feel that they do help with something, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think bumps sounds better than humps, by the way, but just put me down as a person truly against speed humps or bumps. And it would be nice if somehow we can enforce people actually stopping at stop signs. Thank you.
Diana, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First one's a comment, which is that you keep referring to at the last meeting. I think that was a different group that you met with primarily. There may be a few people that are the same, but most of us were not at whatever meeting you're referring to.
Okay.
So just so you know, I did have a couple of questions. When you said who you were meeting with, I didn't see the Business Improvement District listed on the list. Have you been meeting? Do you have a plan to meet with the Business Improvement District? Because that represents all the businesses in the downtown and all the property owners in the downtown area.
I will, so KPA, Catherine and Xavier may be on here as participants, and if they're able to be unlocked, maybe they can help answer that question. They are leading the outreach efforts and have been engaging with community organizations and groups. So I would have to defer to them to answer that.
Okay, I saw Catherine, but yeah, there she is. Ask Catherine. Catherine, can you speak now? Did I fix you?
She has her hand up.
Yeah.
No, it makes you rejoin, so mine took a few seconds when I did that.
Well, no, I just gave her speaking permission, I think. Javier, maybe you can give her speaking permission while I ask my other questions. I'm still concerned about sirens. Linda mentioned sirens. It looked to me like you've got a bus stop right in front of the outdoor dining area at Sirens, which is kitty corner across the street from the animal rescue place you were talking about.
Okay, so 7th and Mesa.
Right, and I don't see why you can't keep the bus stop going that direction on the same side of the street it is now. The traffic at that intersection should be the same as the one where you mentioned a minute ago, 7th and Center, where you could keep it at the existing side.
Is there a reason why, because of the outdoor dining? Is that?
Yeah, that's not very pleasant to be sitting outside having a cup of coffee and have the bus stop right in front of you.
Yeah. Okay, well, let us look at that and we can get back to you.
We would appreciate it. And I think the owner of Sirens would really appreciate it. And
Diana, I can make Catherine because I'm not a co-host, unfortunately.
you couldn't give her
I
permission.
couldn't make allow her to speak. I don't have the control.
Let me find her again then. I'm having
Well,
trouble.
then let me just punch in, following up what you were saying, Diana, is that I'm trying to think of where the bus would be, because there isn't a lot of room there now with the parklet outside of Sirens on Mesa.
Yeah, that doesn't really work.
Yeah, there's not much now. I don't know, Katie, if you have those parklets in your plans that you're looking at. There's a pretty long parklet there on Mesa.
Yeah, and you can't just have people hanging out there. I don't know where you put them because she has tables going down the other corner too.
We'll take a closer look at that intersection.
Okay, Catherine, it says you're permitted to speak now.
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Catherine. Long time no see.
It's probably been 20 years or so, but anyway, yes, going back to the question about the historic BID. Yes, it's probably a good idea for us to reach out to them and let them know about the project.
Yeah, thank you. If you need a contact, let me know, Catherine.
Thank you. I'll take it offline.
Okay. And the next question had to do with, you were talking about bus furniture and showing bus furniture. Does that mean that there is going to be bus furniture, or just that there's space for bus furniture?
So there will be bus furniture at some of the intersections, and the city is currently looking to see if we can add additional shelters to some of the other intersections that didn't have them. The city has a program that funds shelters at priority spaces, and there are several priority spaces on 7th Street. So we are looking at using that program, and the city is engaged with Metro to request additional funding for furniture. So the goal is to include furniture now. Worst case scenario, there will be some at some intersections, and the other intersections will be to come later in the next year or two. We are leaving space, like dedicating a space, though, that it meets all the ADA requirements now, so that if it can't be secured at this time, it would be there soon thereafter.
So my last question had to do with the trees, and you did say they were going to be replaced at a 2-to-1 ratio. And did I understand that they'll all be replaced at the same intersection, just a different place on the intersection, or?
Most, yeah,
plan?
Yes, we do have a tree plan. And we are in discussions with the urban forestry with the city. So in most cases, we are replacing trees at that intersection. I believe that there is one location where we couldn't. Yeah, there's one location that we couldn't fit a new tree, so we're replacing it at a different intersection, and that's at 7th and Palos Verde. But other than that, all the other intersections, they'll be replaced at that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Diana, we have a attendee that wants to speak, but I'm not able to give him that privilege.
Do you have the name?
Xavier Vaya.
Sure, because I see what I had to do. Xavier. You said Xavier?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Javier. Now, Catherine,
Javier.
I was
Hi.
trying to answer Catherine's question. She already answered the question about the BID.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Let's see, anybody else? I don't see any other hands. Katie, just a question. How can we provide formal comments to the process?
You can email, I apologize. I believe that the presentation that we circulated, I didn't splash it on the screen. There was one other slide that showed the city's contact information. So you can reach out to the city body, myself, or Catherine's team. And either of those methods, we would be able to get the comments back. After each meeting, we have like a debrief and discussion with the city to go over any comments and see if there's any opportunities to make changes or improvements. So we appreciate the feedback.
So do you want to give us your email address?
Yes. Can I put it in a chat? Is there a chat?
No, no,
It's-
neighborhood councils aren't allowed to chat.
That's fine. Okay, it's K, my first initial, Harrell, my last name, which is K, so KHARREL at CWECORP.com. So CW Corp.
Thank you. Robin, you have a question?
Yeah, just quickly, I was a little concerned to see that at that one intersection, I think it was First and Mesa, you're going to lose 3 to 5 existing parking places. That seems like a lot to me, and especially not even knowing if it's 3, 4, or 5 is a little concerning. And I just wondered, I'm not that familiar with that intersection or the parking scarcity in that area, but I feel like there should be more concern about that and more definition about exactly what is being lost.
Yeah, we did visit the site a few times and I've checked, and that is part of the outreach program that KPA has been trying to engage the local residents. As I mentioned, we are mostly relocating the parking spaces from one side of the intersection to the other side, but we definitely hear your concerns about the parking.
But that one wasn't a net, that was a total loss. There was no relocating on that intersection, right?
I believe that there was only I think that there of the 4 spaces lost, maybe 1 to 2 were relocated. So we are losing a few.
Yeah, if I was a neighbor, I'd be very concerned.
Particularly on First Street.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that somebody at Central will actually go out and look at each of these intersections carefully.
Someone from who?
Someone in the Central Neighborhood Council.
Yeah, I'll go over to First. I'm well aware of the 7th. Oh. And
Yes.
the other one, if I can butt in here, a traffic light at 10th and Gaffey.
Oh, yes.
So that means there's a traffic light at 7th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's quite a lot.
I would have to double check. I'm not as familiar with the other intersections in the surrounding area, but yeah, you're right. There is one pretty close.
Yeah, 9th and 11th.
Because right now there's a pedestrian push button, like a flashing beacon. And I know when I visited the site, it is very dangerous and difficult to cross the street because there's so many lanes and people are traveling fairly quickly. And I know personally, I had a challenge to get across even with the flashing beacon. And so in that intersection, if you do have a chance to visit it, it is a very strange.
Oh yeah, that one's on 12th.
Okay, yeah. And so that's why they will be adding the signal there. Was
Well,
a high,
I can see 12th, but you said it 10th. I thought you said 10th.
it is 10th and Gaffey.
Right across the library.
No,
There's a
that's
9% store
well,
there.
it's
Right,
on the other
right.
side. Oh, I see.
The other side.
Wow, okay.
I
Bill,
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. that made me think of it, which is, and you may not know the answer to this, but the city had a plan for build outs on Gaffey, and we don't really know what's happened to that. Do you?
No, but we can ask, what is it? A build out on Gaffey?
Yeah, wasn't that part of the beautification of Gaffey?
Yeah, that was, yes, and we've been asking and asking about it.
Well, we can put that question in. I'm not familiar with that project, but we can ask the city.
Okay, thank you.
Dylan, you had a question?
Yeah, no, I would just mention, I happen to live on 10th Street down on South Center. I'll just mention that 10th Street's much wider than 9th Street. So there's also a dotted yellow line that runs down 10th Street that doesn't run down 9th Street. It's much more difficult to cross on 10th. So while I think that having two lights back to back maybe a lot, the one on 9th is much less necessary in my opinion than the one on 10th. But I cross it every day and very dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see any other hands or questions from anyone else. Katie, thank you for the presentation again. We will make the contact available so that if anybody has any comments after the meeting, they're able to provide them to you.
Great, and I know Catherine had coordinated for this presentation, so once we get some responses, we will route them through her so she can share them back with the group.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Very well. We're going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is discussion of expectations for the connectivity plan. And Diana, who's doing that?
Yeah, it seemed to me that it would be helpful if we would put together what we wanted to see in the connectivity plan. And my thought is that I'm certainly willing to write it up and take it to Northwest, because we're meeting in two weeks prior to our board meeting. And maybe, the other two committees want to do likewise, and then send it in a letter both to the consultant working on the plan and to the port, but also to our new councilman. So my thought was for us tonight just to spend a little bit of time to see what ideas people had, what they wanted to be sure got included. I certainly have my list, but I'd love to hear other people's before I talk.
Yeah, I mean, definitely have some thoughts on that, but I don't know how we want to get it started. Anybody has some suggestions, comments on what priorities should be included?
Diane, why don't you give a description of what that is now?
What the connectivity plan is?
Yeah, got a lot of people here may not know.
The connectivity plan is the port has gone out to bid and selected a consultant to develop a plan for connectivity along the waterfront, to connect the community to the waterfront and to the various spots on the waterfront to each other. And it was a very broadly worded RFP and broadly worded contract in terms of what they're doing. They are going to be coming out and having a couple of community meetings. My understanding is that the first community meeting will be more to introduce themselves, and then there will be a second one that'll be more of community input.
Diana, do you think it would be helpful that each planning and land use committee would tackle this on their own and then maybe bring back some comments to kind of create a list of items, priorities?
Well, we could certainly do that. I just wanted to have people at this meeting have an opportunity to give us input. You do have somebody with their hand up.
Yeah, Craig.
Okay, I particularly think, the connectivity between actually, you could say between Northwest and Central going down front Harbor Boulevard. There is no sidewalks on either side, no hill or the port side. There's no greenery. The bike lanes are in disrepair. And that's, we have several areas where there's no sidewalks in San Pedro. 2 of those are in Central. All of those are, another one is up on Western. And that's really sad. I mean, we're talking, you saw this development they're doing in downtown, and we don't even have sidewalks. I mean, I still can't walk on a sidewalk all the way from the 2 blocks from my street down to Gaffey. They only put in partially. So I think it's one of the things that we need to look at is, if we're going to make connectivity, we need to make it, and with the port, this should be part, from going down Harbor Boulevard should be part of that whole plan, the greening. There's railroad tracks that are abandoned. Everything there could be really made a lot nicer. I mean, it's been talked about, but it seems like this part of connecting these areas, which are basically in Central, have never been connected.
That's part of the whole plan. So that's what they're going to look at. And they are pulling up part of the one San Pedro. They're doing a green belt there in front of the Iowas. So a lot of these things are actually being considered. That's
not
some of them are, but I think Craig raises a good point that we ought to put into whatever we say in terms of sidewalks all the way, and the greenery and the bike lanes that need to be the entire length. So
Yeah, I think one of the things that I personally hope that they're addressing is, they're eliminating part of the right of way from the rail that we have there, and what kind of mode of transportation are they going to look for the future of connecting some of the points at either end, particularly because we have more parking at both ends of the harbor, right below the Vincent Thomas Bridge, and then on the other side on 22nd Street, which at some point is going to be very important since we have a lot of activity at the West Harbor area and downtown as well. So if we can help to reduce traffic by creating some kind of transportation would be great. Frank? Frank, are you able to speak?
Obviously is, but he's
Linda.
But he needs to be muted.
Frank.
Oh,
sorry, there you are.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Just barely.
Barely? Okay. I just wanted to piggyback on Craig's comment there that even though there are sidewalks on Harbor Boulevard, they're almost impassable because of the poles and the signage there and the narrowness of them next to the former tracks. And, even going down farther on Front Street, you mentioned that, but I think they're going to be putting that walking path on the Front Street beautification, and it's going to be on both sides. It's going to take a while to do it. But we do need to have a well-developed system of walking there besides the Harbor Boulevard path there, walkway. So that needs to be mentioned too. And by the way, too, on this plan, we have to be sure they have a pretty robust plan for parking and also traffic, because I have a bad feeling about the traffic. If we're it's going to really impact San Pedro if we're going to expect to attract all these people with these multi modes of transportation. We need to get them someplace so they just don't cluster up someplace. So I think we need to look at that: the sidewalks, the parking plan, and the traffic plan. Thank you.
Jason?
Yeah, one thing that gave me pause was when the port said that they had no plan or intention to connect Wilmington to San Pedro. And they said that connection would not be by land. The connection they would have would be by some water ferry, which obviously will run extremely infrequently and only during certain hours. It's not going to be something I don't think you can count on as a major transport method, but more of a novelty sort of tour thing. So I think we might want to consider asking for a land connection, which could be bike path, which could be something else, some sort of green belt, something along that route along Harbor there. Also, when they talk about some sort of connectivity plan, it should be a dedicated right of way that does not impede in the current traffic, right? So we've only got a fixed number of lanes. We can't add more lanes, especially because they've decided in their ultimate wisdom to override the light rail right of way there and put in a park. So now you are hemming in between, you sent one San Pedro or whatever, and that spot, the number of lanes you could have. So you can't expand it. You're stuck with what we have today as far as traffic goes. If your connectivity plan is a wheeled trolley, it's just going to cause more traffic. It's a bus, so it's better than everyone in individual cars, but it's just adding to the traffic impact of the lanes that are already going to be more greatly impacted based on all this new activity and new residential expansions happening. So I would want to see something that is out of band, right? Dedicated right of way, something. If they insist on not having some sort of, trolley or rail or anything like this, a dedicated path for this wheeled trolley thing, perhaps something, but it should be out of band, in my opinion.
Can I just say something real quick?
I just wanted to correct Jason. There is connectivity between, San Pedro and Wilmington. They have great sidewalks. There is a bike path. The problem is there's nothing connecting from northwest to central to downtown. So when you're going down there, but what they were saying was they were not going to do any light rail or rapid transit between there.
That's not what they were saying. They specifically said the connectivity plan would not address connectivity between San Pedro and Wilmington.
Except by water and yeah.
Yes. Had nothing to do with specifically rail.
And we can certainly talk about it in what we're saying.
Yeah.
Very good.
Can I just say one real quick thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Rock.
And then Jason, I know you love the trolley and all that other kind of stuff, but part of the connectivity is to get people across harbor and all that other kind of stuff, and light rail would be a problem with that. I see the trolley come out every Friday because I live down there, the 200 block of 6th Street, and it's amazing. It comes out Friday, people jump on it. It's very colorful. They get around. They've done a great job for the groundbreaking for Fleet Week and all that other kind of stuff. So it's sort of cool to see it come out and like, oh my God, it's the weekend and all this other kind of stuff instead of just being stuck down there. So just as someone who sits there all the time, it's actually sort of a very cool thing to see. So there you go.
Very good. Diana, like, is there?
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to see is good signage that connects things in downtown San Pedro to the waterfront and the waterfront to downtown San Pedro and the various assets along the waterfront to each other. So a good signage program to me is an important thing. I would also like to see them review the coastal trail proposal. The coastal trail includes recommendations like where sidewalks need to be widened, places where the bike lanes need to be improved. So I'd like to see them review that and also include the coastal trail signage as a part of what they're doing. There's been a suggestion that maybe we ought to look long-term at an overpass at the foot of 6th Street. I don't know how people feel about that. There was also early on a suggestion that there be a way to exit on foot the parking lot that is along Harbor Boulevard. That's way down towards 22nd Street, but there's no way to exit it by foot at the north end. You have to go all the way around. So it's some kind of maybe a sidewalk, I mean, a crosswalk there, as well as an exit. And then when we were doing our earlier work, there was a real emphasis on making sure that they had wheelchair and stroller access. So those are some things that I certainly would like to see.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that overpass on 6th Street. I've been thinking about that it would be great to have like not a bridge, but like a pedestrian overpass that you kind of go without stepping up. So it kind of goes over the street and connects 6th Street to West Harbor, which would allow people to go back and forth between downtown and the harbor area.
It also help with traffic flow.
Yeah, exactly. Because when there's an event, it's impossible to get across it. You can just imagine when that thing is going full blast. It's going to be very difficult.
If you look at the illustration they had of the pedestrian overpass on Wilmington's waterfront, something like that. I brought that up at the last time when the board was talking to it. Something like that, a pedestrian, sort of an arching pedestrian walkway over that intersection.
Diana, time-wise, when is the consultant starting their work? Do you know?
Say that again?
When is the consultant going to start working on the?
They've started. But
Oh, they have already.
They're mostly doing background information right now, as I understand it.
Okay.
They actually have started fairly recently.
Okay.
You've got-
Jason?
Hi, just wanted to say in terms of pedestrian connectivity, as somebody who pushes a stroller every day up and down the streets of downtown and along the harbor, the sidewalks are going to make a lot of people in wheelchairs very angry at us. That's something that I think should kind of be looked at all over the city, obviously, but especially in terms of trying to get and keep new people, that's something to consider.
Jason, I don't understand. Why would sidewalks make them angry?
Because there's so many cracks and bumps. Our sidewalks in town are really, really hard to push anything rolling over.
What you're really saying is the sidewalks need to be improved.
Yes. I would love all of our sidewalks to be improved, but what I'm for strollers, it's not a big deal, but for wheelchairs, it's huge.
Yeah. So maintenance is more of an issue than the sidewalk itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, I don't see any other questions or comments. So what do you see as the next step, Diana, for us?
I'll write this up. I'll take it to, I'll send you whatever I write up, send it over to Robin. And I'll take it to our Northwest Committee. We'll flush it out. And I suggest you do the same and Robin do the same.
Okay.
And then once we've done that, we put it together and we send it off to the consultant, to the port, and to the to our new councilman.
That makes sense. Very good.
Fairly
Frank?
quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Frank, maybe we could work with the port committee along with that.
Yeah. No problem.
Very good. We're gonna move on to our next item. Diana, could I be a co-host so I could share my screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Should have made you a co-host a long time ago. I didn't realize you weren't.
Well, that's why I wasn't able to I'll give speaking privileges to some of the attendees.
Right.
All right, very good. Well, our next item is a plan for a beautification of Pacific Avenue. And let me share my screen. Are you able to see that? Great.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this, and everybody knows Pacific Avenue and all the problems that there are, but we decided that we needed to come up with a plan to create a beautification plan. As we know, Pacific Avenue is one of the options for moving up and down in town, along with Gaffey and Harbor. And as you can see on the image on the right, it's also a connecting point to downtown and to parts on the harbor. So there's connecting nodes that happen along that way, and important things happening throughout the street. So looking at general way the street is right now, some of the thoughts that we had, we're looking at this in the Central Planning and Land Use Committee, and some of the things that we feel that need to be improved. Let me take a step back. There are different levels of what we can do on the street. Obviously, the street is a public right of way, and we can improve the street. We can improve the sidewalks, and thirdly, would be nice to improve the architecture buildings around the street. But some of the things that would be useful to have is, like, for example, improved signage to connect to the harbor area, for example, or the downtown. Somebody that doesn't know our town going through Pacific just go through and not really know where they are in relationship to other points. So I'm thinking that, whether it's a graphic on the street or something that illustrates that this is a connecting point to another part of town, could happen. And, downtown is a particular area where 6 and 7 is. And then some of the other issues that I see happening is, the consistency with the street amenities, lack of trees, the level of lighting is inconsistent, the type of lighting is inconsistent. And thirdly, there's inconsistent signage along the street, which really create light on the street. Also with the lack of trees, it becomes more obvious. And as we move towards the other end of Pacific, towards 22nd, it gets even worse as far as like canopies and signage. So, for example, 22nd, if anybody is driving through there, wouldn't necessarily know that connects you to the harbor. When I first got here, it took me a while to figure that out. But so the idea would be to communicate those connecting points to people that are not from our town, which eventually might be traveling this street, and it's going to be a very important connecting point. So along with that, came up with a list of items that we thought should be included in this plan. As I said, better signage along Pacific Avenue connecting to other parts of town, such as downtown, the harbor, and the marina, and Cabrillo Beach. Provide consistent levels of street lighting and the use of historic fixtures in the downtown area. Consistent street enhancements such as covered bus stops, trash cans, and street lights. More trees and landscape wherever possible to create a more shaded environment and to soften the street scene. Provide sidewalk and street repairs as well as maintenance, which is one of the issues that Jason was referring to. And then further than that, is to promote a historic preservation and adaptive reuse of some of the existing structures. Recently I was talking to someone about that structure on 7th and Pacific, which is a very nice building, but it's currently a storage facility. And, it seems like the wrong kind of use for downtown. So hopefully that will be reused in the future. Also to include a facade restoration program for commercial and residential uses along the avenue so that we can kind of improve on some of the historic properties. And lastly, to introduce and enforce a consistent signage program for businesses along the street, kind of like what they did along 7th Street, which is very nice, and it shows. So my initial thought was that this would go to the council district office, whoever the next group is coming in, and hopefully get their support and get this pushed through to the city. I'm sure we could address it to other departments in the city, but I think, you know, getting the council office to support it would be very important. And I see some hands. Diana?
Oh, no. Well, I didn't have my hand up, but I mean, I forgot to lower it. But
Okay.
I would suggest that it go to the bid as well.
Okay.
Because the bid has some money that might be able to be used for some of those things. It might be one
Sure.
source for some of those things.
Linda?
Yeah, and what, following up with Diana, the bid has the east side of Pacific, the landlords on the east side of Pacific from, I think, 4th to 8th. And I don't know that they've done much of anything. Well, I can't see that they've done anything on that block. So that would be a good one. And the president is Yolanda Regalado.
Okay.
Currently.
Whose husband is the chair of Northwest.
Very good.
Oh,
so
following up on
session-
that, Linda, one suggestion that has been made is that maybe we would want to actually walk that area, the 4th to 8th, and be more specific and get Yolanda and maybe the chamber to walk it with us and look specifically at you know, block by block in that short area, what could be done.
Yeah, Javier, I love the idea, all the things you've got on that. It's really good. Overdue.
Thank you. Thank you. Brock?
By the way, great points, Javier. Have you ever thought of spelling your name with an X?
You know what? I would, but then people would do the same mistake I did of saying Xavier instead of Javier. So, and I should know better.
I just want to make, you know, it's actually very interesting. If you've ever been in the holiday parade and you go down, it starts on, you know, they feed into Pacific and you walk down and you go, oh, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that was there. It's actually a wildly very interesting street. And by the way, the parade is this Sunday, 1 to 3. So, but what I think would actually make it much more beautiful is the approval of the 2 projects that are on Pacific that have been stalled for various unknown reasons, because we have eyesores there that sometimes house the homeless and whatever, that's not doing anything and not producing anything for our community. So I think the approval and moving forward of those 2 projects would benefit the beautification of Pacific. Thanks.
Thanks, Rock. Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I know we might not agree on the specific type of project, but I believe we need to give it some new blood, and that will be catalyst to make things happen and change. I've seen it happen in many places, so perhaps that's what we need.
Happening downtown.
Yes. Very good. I don't see any further comments or questions, so we took this item up on Central's board meeting, and we are forwarding our letter to the council's office, district office. So Diana and Robin, perhaps your committees can give us some support on that, particularly because, you know, it goes in many parts of our town. So then we could have a more unanimous vote on that.
One question, Javier, if we decided to take a little walk in that part that's the bid part, we ought to see who's interested in coming along.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you're interested, just email me, let me know, and so when we get it organized, we'll figure out who wants to go.
Sounds good. Linda, do you have
just one follow-up. If you want to make nice to our new city councilman, his swearing in is on the 10th I think at 10 or 11 o'clock. There'll be more information coming out. They want to reach out to the neighborhood councils.
That'll be over at the
Wilmington.
Waterfront Park.
Maybe we can get them to walk with us.
I bet you we could get Connie to walk with us.
Poor Connie's hoping to have a life.
Yes. Alan?
I just wanted to quickly thank you, Javier, for taking the initiative on this set of ideas. And I think having some consistency in a set of principles that include both tip of the hat to historical features, as well as to trees and other living landscape that can significantly affect the quality of life and the perception of the community. I really applaud those and the features in your plan. So hopefully our other neighborhood councils will also take that up and support it. That's it.
Thank you. Rock, I think your hand's still up.
I still had the same thought, so I'm sorry about that. There we go.
Okay. All right, very well. We'll move on to our next item, which is discussion of need for downtown market. Diana, are you taking this up?
Actually, it's Dylan.
Dylan.
It would help if I wasn't on mute. I can speak briefly to the reason for this one really quickly. On the very base level, we don't really have much access to fresh fruits, vegetables, healthy options south of Gaffey, right? Our only option currently south of Gaffey between 1st and past 12th, because Vaughn's is on Gaffey, so I guess 12th, is Numero Uno. Great place, but it's the only option. They're putting in, I think, a couple thousand units downtown over the next few years. Increased in density should equate to an increase in the access to healthy foods, right? And fresh vegetables and fruits. And so I know we have a farmer's market. You know, it's accessible to some, not necessarily to me. It's in the middle of the day on a work day. But I also know that a lot of the developments have mixed use space. I know that the courthouse, there was talks about a market. I believe that may still be in play, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I've heard mixed things, but I think I would like to encourage, at least at this central folks, to at least think through a way that we could push our city leaders to push or incentivize one of the mixed use locations to have a market on the periphery.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. I think we've talked about this before. Rock, did you have a comment?
I totally agree, just for the record. Some of you may know I have a listing in the 300 block of 6th Street that I wish a grocery store or some type of retail outlet would take advantage of. I know for the courthouse, talk to Trader Joe's and other people, and the grocery stores have these very strict parameters about being near a spotlight and traffic and all this other kind of stuff. And I reached out to some regional grocery stores also who sort of looked at it. When I see the foot traffic come up from the cruise lines and stuff, for those guys to be able to go somewhere and just not numero uno, but something that was really maybe a little more specific to us, that offered groceries, drugs, pharmacy, retail, gifts, whatever, I'm so down with that. I think it's absolutely necessary. I think it would be a boon to the area. So I am with you on that, and I got a great location for it. That's not shilling, it's just there. If you talk about downtown, and talk about if you had a mall and who would be your anchor and all that other kind of stuff, like really would be good to have one place, because I know Crown Plaza says go up the street, and if they went up the street and actually had a really decent retail place to go to that had sort of everything or sort of specialty stuff, It would be fabulous. And, you know, the courthouse is eventually going to have a public market. That's what they're trying to do on the bottom floor, which will be nice, but it isn't the same thing. So I'm with you. That's a big need, but it's really interesting. The grocers have these strict parameters of what they want for a development.
Yeah, and wasn't the concept for the market that the building at the courthouse to be like an Italian market to tie into the Little Italy concept?
I don't know, it'd be Italian. It's supposed to be like the public market down in LA where they have individual stalls and little restaurants and, you know, food court and that type of thing. Not food court like you see at the airport, but the type that you see at the LA, what I don't know exactly what it's called, but so that's the concept. And I know the developer there, he found that actually better than in order to just land a large tenant. It was like he can be much more flexible in attracting individual enterprises that way.
That would be interesting. And you know, going along with this idea, Diane and I have talked about the possibility that perhaps the farmers market could be developed into sort of a street fair event that happens in the evenings, so that people can attend after work. There's very good examples of how successful that can be. San Luis Obispo has one that's been going on since the 80s when I was there. And also City of Monrovia has one that works really well. They have vendors, they have the farmers market, and it becomes a gathering event for the whole town, which is great. Perhaps, you know, that could be another idea that could create that possibility to access the farmers market.
I think it's a stopgap, right? I think having a true grocery store, right, to access more than just the fruits and vegetables is important. Like I said, there's not one south of Gaffney that I know of.
Well, numero uno is a grocery store.
Fair enough. That's the only one.
But I mean, I agree that's not the exact need, and it's sort of off to the side and all that other kind of stuff. It would be nice to have something up the thoroughfare. And I can't tell you, when we open up our office, I can't believe the foot traffic that comes either from cruise lines, Pola. You know, Pola basically supports Crazy Fish. It's sort of amazing. So it's there. And it's sort of hard to describe to people because they do have these strict parameters. So, I mean, seriously, if I would love to explore this, or there is a committee for this or whatever, I am so down that that's exactly what we need.
Diana?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we go on record as saying that we want a grocery store, because one of the things that happened is a developer came to a meeting and one person said, oh, why do we need another store? Because we have numero uno. And the developer went away saying, oh, that committee doesn't want us to have another store, grocery store. So I think it's really important that we go on record. I'd like to suggest that Dylan draft a letter, take it to Central Neighborhood Council. It's something that we could send out to the various developers. It's something we could share with the council office. And more than that, it becomes a position that we adopt that says that, yeah, we think there should be a grocery store in downtown.
Absolutely.
That's my suggestion. And if you want to form a subcommittee and do something more than that, and someone else has another idea, hey, that's great too. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive in terms of having a farmer's market in the evening. I think that's a great idea too. And I think you could do both. I don't think it's necessarily one or the other.
Yeah, I don't think they even have anything to do with each other.
Yeah. Jason?
Yeah, so who's requiring this street light thing you're talking about? Where is this coming from? Is this like Vaughn's saying this, or who's saying this about a market or a grocery store requiring street?
Having the requirements? I think that's for you, Rock.
Oh.
Where's that coming from?
I'm sorry?
The requirements, you mentioned that they were saying, oh, they wanted to have what was it, a street light or some of this?
No, and exploring this option, and I talked to the courthouse guy, and he went through this whole thing and a couple other conversations. They did have these I don't want to say they're weird, but they wanted to be near a stop sign. They had to have so much parking. They had to do a traffic study. There was all these different things that sort of X'd us out from that type of thing instead of being at 25th and Western, for example. Okay, so, and I know just from previous development things, people have these sort of instant parameters, and if it doesn't fit the box, then it's a harder sell. And so, you know, it's one of these things that's like, you know, come on, don't you see what's going on? You sort of have to bet on the future a little bit. So I know others have gone through that analysis and what I've been trying to do for our property. So that's just the backlash I've heard.
Because it seems to me like they're trying to take a suburban concept of a grocery store and fit it into a downtown, which you're not.
Well, no, the downtown is trying to go to grocery stores where it used to being in suburban areas. They're not really used to being in urban areas that much. In fact, there's been a little bit of a fleeing from urban areas for some of our Walgreens and all that other kind of stuff. So as what's going on that doesn't really fit our wheelhouse. I know as things get thrown up in projects and what are you going to pick? It's like, well, that one fits our box and that fits, you know, our risk profile and stuff like this, and these don't. So they need more help in order to get it. And it's really going to be, and I absolutely agree. This is great to put a letter together that says, we do need this, and get attention, start waving our hands and saying, hey, do you really know what's going on down here?
I mean, in Santa Monica, they literally have a Trader Joe's in a below ground parking structure. The entire Trader Joe's is underground in a parking structure.
And it's Santa Monica.
Yeah, but still, I mean, yes, but it's an example.
I'm just saying, I mean, so you have a lot more traffic going on in Santa Monica than we got.
Sure.
So that's an easy play. Okay, so it's not the actual physical location. It's like they analyze all this stuff, and we don't have the traffic necessarily that some of these guys require. That's why I went to a regional group, and I was like, man, you're in some interesting places. And for me, they didn't want to buy something; they want to lease something. But they had looked at San Pedro, and they just hadn't quite clicked on it yet. So I think the more attention we go, we need this right downtown is important. So thanks for bringing it up, Dylan.
Craig.
Okay. It's going to be, Dylan, you're going to have to wait until the population gets to the point that it's going to attract a market. And there is a lot of negatives down there because there isn't the people. They're not going to put one in, you know, speculatively. These are low margin businesses, especially the stores like Ralph's and Vaughn's, etc. But I do think I think the farmers market is okay. But when I see the farmers market they have in Torrance in Wilson Park, and I see what we have, I'm like, you know, but what Wilson Park does is they put it where there's a lot of parking. They have parking there. We have no parking. There's, you know, you want to go down there, you have to find a place to park and stuff like that. So one of the things is maybe that we need to look at moving it, the farmers market onto to areas where there's a easily accessible parking. There's parking down by the Catalina terminal. There's parking by all this stuff. And if we did that, maybe we could put it on the street where I'm trying to think of the name on the little S, but I want to put it by the port right opposite the Iowa and stuff like that, rather than having, you know, it stuck on, what is it, 6th Street, where it's always problem finding parking. Whenever I've gone to that farmer's market, I've had to go drive around a few streets to get there. And then there's not a lot to offer. You know, if people don't do a real good job offering out there. And I think because it's not, you know, there's nobody's looking at saying, oh, we need fresh fruit, we need fresh vegetables. There's a few guys that show up and that's it.
I didn't lower my hand and we're sort of, I would just apologize, getting off from the grocery store to the farmer's market. The farmer's market, got sort of dead down there in front of City Hall. And actually them moving where it is now is wildly much better. And I don't think the farmer's market is a drive-to type thing. Again, it's capitalizing on the foot traffic that we already got. If we got 550 Harbor, which has got 200 units, there's going to be another one across the street, 300 units for the courtyard. We got the one on 5th Street, the one on 7th Street. That's going to be another 100 units. It's all depending on sort of the existing foot traffic down here and anything else that goes around. So that's sort of being the crux instead of I'm going to drive down to the farmer's market. And I've done that a couple of times and I don't disagree with you about parking currently and where it's at and stuff. But and that's what the grocery people are looking at too, and all that other kind of stuff. It's really sort of selling the foot traffic thing, not just people coming down and I'm going to go to the store there. That's my only point.
I just also want to say, I don't think that businesses may invest today right now with the current population. Speculation isn't out of the question, and I think it needs to be incentivized, and that's really what I think needs to happen here. The city and county both provide a ton of incentives for a ton of industries. And one of the industries they don't provide tax incentives for is grocery, that I'm aware of, I should say, or that I've found yet, is grocery stores in areas that are in need, but not in dire need and food deserts. So while I think, Craig, I may agree that they may not come down here now and we may be hard pressed. I'd rather not be defeatist and say they won't come, so we shouldn't. I'd rather say, let's push to see if we can get an incentive. And the future holds what it will.
Chuck, you had a question.
Is that for me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is not what you're looking for, I don't believe, but wasn't there a market plan for the Rancho area?
If there isn't another one in downtown, they may put one in Rancho, yes.
Yeah. But there was one plan for that area, right?
Yeah, there's a plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but that won't happen for 10 years.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Let's see. Don't see any more hands up. So Dylan, yeah, I guess we could create a letter to request that and then make it a statement that we could I don't know what would be the best way to establish that, Diana.
I think Dylan has a really good point about incentives and that we may want to do two letters. One that can be shared with developers as to why it is that it's desirable to have a market. And I think some of the comments that were made about the cruise lines and the population increase is expected in the downtown area would go into that letter. And then maybe the letter that goes to the council office and maybe to the supervisor's office would be slightly different, talking again about the need, but saying, but raising the issue around incentives, and that it would be very, very helpful if there was a way that there were any incentives that could be found. So.
Certainly do both. Rock, can I work with you on the first one?
Absolutely.
And then Javier, can you put us in touch so I can get
Yes.
information?
Yes.
Email is rockashfield@gmail.com.
There you go.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Javier, for the time. Thanks, everybody.
All right, great. Let's see. Our next item is updates and other items of interest to the committee.
I don't really have any tonight because I'm not at home and I don't have any of my notes and kind of forgot what I had to say.
Where are you?
We're at our son's house in Las Vegas.
Bet on red.
Frank's got his hand up.
Frank, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I just want to, I know it was mentioned several meetings ago, I want an update on the parking plan that the chamber is supposedly putting together. I haven't heard anything about it.
That's
so
right.
I'd like some kind of update on that.
Yeah,
Excuse me?
Who is putting together a parking plan?
Well, Elise mentioned it several meetings ago, several months ago. Then I brought it up at another meeting. And she stated that she would report back, but I haven't heard anything about the proposal. She was gonna work with people downtown on a parking plan.
Okay, well, one of the big piece of that several of them have been working on for over a year is to get the Topaz parking on Center between 6th and 5th to be available. They have been available for some events, but Elise and some others were trying to get them to be more regular and open. But apparently those talks have stopped now, is my last notice, because they're putting the building up for sale, or it is up for sale. Rocket, do you know if it's up for sale?
Sorry, what's up for sale?
Topaz building.
I
It's
don't
my
know.
understanding that it's up for sale. It is either up for sale or it has been sold.
That's my understanding as well.
So it talks about the parking garage, which was.
Oh, Topaz. Oh, okay.
So
I think Topaz is continually up for sale. I don't know what those people are doing over there because they're not developing those storefronts at all. It's just wildly perplexing. What Elise said was they were going to try to, I think Topaz closes down at 9 for the parking, and they're trying to get it extended to 11. And that's what she said at a meeting, I don't know, 2 months ago. So I don't know what the latest update, but they're difficult people to deal with.
I think the update is they don't want to talk anymore because they're selling it. They don't want to make any commitments.
They haven't talked for years. So whatever the reason is, they're just not very good managers.
Anyway,
but don't quote me.
Well, it's just between us, Rock.
That's right.
I have a question. Does anybody know what's happening with that brewery on 7th Street that's been sitting there for years? Anything?
Well, it was supposed to open. They did have a thing for Tim McCosker there, like what, 2 months ago, Diane?
Mm-hmm.
So that was very cool, and I heard they were getting ready to just do it. So it's pending, is what I've been hearing.
Oh, the 5-year project.
They're waiting for the Hawks.
It's not in season yet.
Yeah, I think it's very close to opening finally.
No, well, that would be great.
I do have an announcement, if I may.
Go ahead.
All right, tomorrow is First Thursday.
Okay.
It's the last First Thursday of the year, okay? And so we will have our doors open at Palm Realty Boutique at 255 West 6th Street, right across from Oha's Tea House. Has everybody seen our new sign? It lights up at 5, so the sign lighting is 5. It took us 11 months to get it approved through the LA Planning Department. So we will have Ken Crichton is Santa. If you hadn't checked me out on Facebook, Rock Ashfield, then you can see him. He'll be there. We have 2 watercolor artists, refreshments. We have a couple of our agents selling cookies and hats. And I didn't say it, but Neo Cocktails may stop on by. So if you're in the area, we're opening up the 200th block to the art walk. So we will be there. Please stop on by, and you can watch me play with my remote so I can play with the sign. I can make it do all sorts of things. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Rock. Linda?
Just a quick thing. I don't know how many of you know that the Business Improvement District decided a number of years ago to put a kind of a welcome archway sign at 6th near Harbor. And it is now, it's going to be, it got several options for design, and it's going to go out to the community, I think in January, to have a survey for preferences. So it would be not right on the corner of 6th and Harbor, but off that a little bit, a little west of that. It'll be a half arch.
And when can we see the options?
They're getting them ready and could wait after Christmas and so it should be the beginning of January.
Excellent. That'd be great. Very, very good. Any further updates from anyone? Aardwalk. Noel, I like your background. It looks like you're gonna give a talk on Nova.
Beautiful. I like it.
Well, we are flying to the moon after all.
There you go. Okay, our next item is public comment on items not on the agenda. I don't see anyone, but I have one that I'd like to just bring up. I mean, we all realize what the problems of traffic in the city are, and things seem to be getting worse. And I think, we have a lot of close calls here and there. I don't know what we could do about that, but it seems like somebody should be addressing that citywide. People not stopping at the stop signs, literally just going through red lights 5-10 seconds into the light. I mean, I've had a few close calls myself, but I mean, it seems like a safety issue that we somehow need to address. And I don't know what the best way to do that would be, but I thought I'd bring it up.
A thought that maybe a representation needs to go to the third Thursday CPAC meetings at Harbor Police Station.
Interesting. Okay.
CPAB. I go to the CPAB meetings. I try and go regularly. I haven't. But every time I bring up traffic problems, they say they don't really seem to have people in San Pedro. They say, oh, the guy comes out every once in a while. So if I talk to them about parking or other problems, they just sit there and go. So I think if you guys want to work on, it's a police problem. And it's like secondary to them. So it's traffic enforcement or law enforcement. And when you sit there and you go, every time I've talked to them about these kinds of problems, they sit there and go, oh, well, we'll put it to, the traffic guy and he comes by, once a month. So it's not, I'm exaggerating a little, but if we need to, I think a lot of problems, I think a lot of our problems with law enforcement and stuff like that can be solved a lot easier if we had planning, enforcement of planning and enforcement of traffic. We wouldn't be getting into a lot of the situations that we get into, but they're not enforced. They feel that it's like that broken windows thing, that if people don't, if they're not going to enforce traffic, if they're not going to enforce parking, if they're not going to enforce all this other stuff, that means that, hey, they're not going to enforce crime either. And it's, it's the low hanging fruit here. Just my opinion.
I agree. Frank?
Yeah, I will echo the comments made by both Craig and Rock. It almost seems like a stop sign or a stop signal is a mere suggestion. It doesn't really have meaning for a lot of drivers, unfortunately. And I've noticed it in driving around town in particular. People really don't stop at stop signs. They just make sure nobody's real close to them and gun their way through it. And I do regularly cross, for example, First and Bandini, and it has all directions on a red for a couple of seconds, and that light is continuously run by 2 or 3 people. I mean, there's some intersections that are extremely dangerous, but that's something we have to, and the same with parking enforcement of abandoned vehicles or non-registered vehicles, because parking has become so, even my neighborhood is atrocious. I mean, it's just really bad. So I echo that. Thank you.
piggyback on that for a minute. I can't remember his name. Is it Dan Brown, Diana, the SLO at the neighborhood council? And I would always ask him, and he would say, well, we make a lot of, I go, you could solve the national debt if you just write some tickets. And he goes, we write a lot of tickets. And I'm at 17th and April, and they just come up the hill and speed on by. And I'm really serious. Going down the hill, it's like putting your life in danger, seeing people just roll through. And I don't know what happened. It was during COVID. It's some disease where no one cares anymore. And I don't know where the enforcement is on this. It just blows my mind.
Diana?
Yeah, I agree. It's a real problem, and we're really not discussing it now because it wasn't on the agenda, but I think it's something really important to put on the agenda and discuss. But the thing that we always hear from the police officers seems to be, give us the specific intersections and the time of day when you see the most infractions. So my suggestion is that between now and the next meeting, people make a list. Someone just said it, something in April, but let's make a list of the specific intersections and times of day when we see it as a problem. And
I've gone to the Harbor Police Department, shown them a map. Will you please look at this? And they all go, well, do you go? And, they may put a car there just, and Dan Brown did come out for an hour and sat in the corner, but I didn't want him to sit in the corner. I want him to write tickets. Okay, because otherwise it's just like, oh, there's a cop there, I'll slow down. No, I want you to pay for your whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Transgression.
Thank you.
Well, if I could just say one more thing, when I travel outside of the city, I don't see the problem as much in other areas. I think it's because we're kind of isolated and everybody feels like nobody's going to come around. They can get away with it. And, during COVID, that was even worse. So
I will tell you, when I first moved to LA, I lived in Beverlywood, and then I've gone up there. I had meetings and stuff. If you do anything askew in Beverly Hills, they will track you down. If you go off that yellow line to get in the left-hand thing, boom, you're done. I had a rolling stop sign a long time ago. It's like, I really didn't do anything. And it's like, they will go get you. And that's where I go. I know, look, we went through this whole, get rid of the police and whatever, but it's like, where are they to, patrol? And I don't know if it also comes down to where you do need camera lights and all that other kind of stuff on some of this stuff. Is just amazing, the indiscretions that happen in our community.
Okay, I'm gonna call for adjournment. We're not supposed to be discussing this. It's not on the agenda.
no.
And it's almost doggone 8 o'clock. I haven't had dinner.
But it's an item not on the agenda.
That was
Exactly.
the
So
category.
we're not supposed to be discussing it. We'll put it on the next agenda.
Yeah,
That's
if it's
right.
gonna come at a future meeting, then we have to save it for
If you
that.
run a stop sign by a grocery store, do that one.
With
Very good.
wheelchairs waiting to cross.
It's been a great meeting. Thank you very
Hey, look
much.
at that comment behind Noel.
Alan Franz has his hand up.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the police approach of name an intersection at a time ignores the fact that it happens all over town all day long. It's a pervasive problem of lack of respect for red lights, for stop signs, for other features that does seem to be a bit more of a problem, a different mindset in our community than in some others. I used to work for many years in Rancho Palos Verdes, and people there drive differently. Not to say they're, better. It's just different. But 2 months ago, I was riding my little electric scooter, little mini bike, and I got hit by a guy that ran a stop sign. And I'm still flexible enough. No great harm was done, but it is a pervasive problem, and we can't simply designate to the police this is the corner to hang out at. We need some sort of public messaging, and unfortunately, our public messaging systems are now being taken over by digital bus stops selling products rather than providing community information. That's it.
Thanks, Alan. All right, guys. we are going to adjourn, and our next meeting is on Wednesday, December 28th. Is that correct, Diana?
That's correct. And we have Alta-C coming to give us an update on what's going on there. And we're going to try to get 111 Harbor, if we can find the contact. We're still trying to do that.
Very well. Well, thank you, guys.
The December 28th.
Yes.
I'll be in New York, but I will see if I can. Zoom.
That doesn't mean you can't zoom in.
That's right. You can
No,
zoom
no,
on
it'll
back
just be like
if
2
you
o'clock in the morning.
They have no comments. in New York, so-
No excuses.
Yeah,
Very well.
Totally different sky.
Maybe it'll
Well,
be.
thank you guys again, and
Merry
we
Christmas.
will see you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
holidays.
See you
everybody.
tomorrow, First Thursday.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy Hanukkah,
Thank you.
Christmas, Kwanzaa.
Could you